You know, she came out on July 5th. And July 5th was a really good one for me, the roller coaster. Boy, that was so vivid. I'm still, Bill Howard is still up here, that roller coaster. So without further ado, you know who she is. She hails, that's right. Whee! She hails from Fresno, California. As a matter of fact, Hussein Ismail, I know he's on here. I didn't see his name, but I know he snuck on here. He does not miss his wife speaking whenever she speaks. So what a guy, what a guy. So anyway, she hails from Fresno, California, 2 degrees, decided to open up her own business, and B, it got closed down a notch. She said, look, this is not working. I need to find another avenue. And she went out and built a real strong team very early on. And she's rebuilding like we all are. Because why? People, for whatever do what they do. But anyway, we have the greatest opportunity. And with that said, without further ado, regional director from Fresno, California, the great, the one and only 3.0, soon to be 5.0, Miss Natasha Ismail.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And you know what? I feel like I should go to Vegas next, because you got all these people coming out to Vegas to see you, taking them to exotic places and whatnot. So it might be next. You never know. You never know. You gotta be ready for surprises.
Well, you know what? Today I got people flying in from Brazil that coming in this afternoon. I got to meet from Brazil. And then this weekend I got some friends coming in again.
You see that? Look, Brazil. I knew he was international. Is like international, okay? But thank you so much, Mr. Thomas, for having me on to speak today. Good morning, beautiful people. Caroline, I love your shirt. It says no regrets, just results. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm all about it. So before I get started, you guys know that I have to thank Mr. Thomas just for everything that he does. I mean, he's been one of the most instrumental people in our journey in this business, and, you know, just teaching us all of the skills that we need, not just for this business, but, you know, in finance in general, in life, leadership, just so many things. And I never thought that I would meet someone that knew as much as he knows. So I just want to give it back to you, Mr. Thomas, and to let you know that we appreciate you. So everybody, you can give him a round of applause. I see you guys. I see you, Willie. I see you, Winston. Thank you guys so much. So I was driving to church the other day, and you guys ever you ever been driving down the road and everything just seems so perfect, and you got your music going and you're drinking your coffee or Starbucks or whatever, and you're just in a great mood? How many of you know what I'm talking about? You're just in a great mood, like everything's going perfect. You're like driving, you feel like you're in the Fast and Furious movie, and all of a sudden something smacks against your window. Right where you're looking. It's not even like off to the side, off to this side. No, it has to be right where you're looking, okay? And you're the splat and you still flinch, even though there's a glass in the middle. Y'all know you've done it. You've done it, Belinda. You've done it, okay? You flinched and you don't know if it's bird poop or if it's a bug, okay? Sometimes you just can't tell. And your whole mood changes right away. Sam knows what I'm talking about because he's laughing. Willie knows what I'm talking about. You guys understand me, okay? So we're on the same page. So isn't that how life is? Sometimes you're just driving along, you got your music, everything's good, and then all of a sudden something just splats against your window and just completely messes with your mood. And then it feels like there's one thing after another. Then there's another bug. Then there's more bird poop. And then there's something else that you can't, it's an unidentifiable object on your window. Like you can't even tell what it is at that point because it's just been smashed so much. So who can relate to that? Who's ever felt like that before? And I know, especially after what we've gone through past year and a half, everybody can relate to that, right? Now I'm going to tell you guys a story. There was a boxer, and, you know, his career was just getting started, and he had just gotten married and all of this stuff, and somebody challenged his title. So what do you think he did? Put it in the chat. What do you think he did? Somebody challenged a brand new boxing champion's title. He was going to defend it, right? So naturally, that's what he says. He says, you know what? I'm going to defend it. And his wife was a singer. She had some hearing problems. But she said, you know what? I support you. If this is what you want to do, I support you. But you have to tell your mom because your dad was a boxer too, and he died in the ring. So they go over to dinner to the mom's house, and they say, Mom, we got to tell you something. And she says, I already know. And he said, what do you mean you already know? Like, how could you know? How could you know? And she says, I already know. Just look at you guys. And they look at each other and they're just like, how does she know? Like, we didn't tell her. How does she know? And he said, but mom, how do you know? And she said, well, just look at her. She's glowing, her skin, her hair. Like, I can just tell. I know when somebody's pregnant. And they look at each other and they go, what is she talking about? What is she talking about? So long story short, they find out that the wife was pregnant. So their whole life just changed. So fast forward, the baby's born and they felt like something was off. They felt like there wasn't something right. And remember, I told you that the mom had hearing problems. So they had to take the baby in for testing. So they have this little newborn baby and they hook up all these things to her head. And, you know, the mom's holding her and the boxer, the husband, he's in the other room with the nurse. So the nurse tells him, okay, all we're going to do is we're going to push some buttons and we're going to see if the baby reacts. That's all we need is a reaction. If we don't get a reaction, then we know that that's bad news. So they push the button and the baby doesn't respond. So they both look at each other and they both start crying because they knew at that point that their baby was deaf and wasn't going to be able to hear. So in life, you're going to get curveballs. Right when you think that things are growing great, right when you think that you're just driving along and, you know, music's fine, coffee's fine, your hair's blowing in the wind for those of us that are lucky enough to have it. Okay, Mr. Thomas, you can't feel the wind in your hair. But all of a sudden you might just feel it. You might just hear a splat on your window. You're going to flinch. Something's going to come to test you. But you have to be able to turn that trial into triumph. So if you're taking notes, that's a really good line right there. Sam's like, that's a good one. You got to turn your trial into your triumph. When something happens to you, you got to ask yourself, say, is this going to be the thing that is going to be my reason why I have to do something? Or is this going to be my reason why I can't? And this fits for anything. So you guys can put some things in the chat, but I'll give you a couple of examples. So first example, what's the biggest excuse sometimes that we hear when it comes to this business? I don't have the time, okay? Now that could be your excuse to do it or not to do it. That can be, I can't do the business because I don't have time, or I have to do the business because I don't have time right now, so that I have time later. Another one, I can't do the business because I have a job. The opposite of that is I have to do this business because I have a job that's not mine. Because remember, you don't own that job. Another one could be, I can't do the business because my grandparents are sick and they need me and I have to take them to the hospital and I got all these bills and all this stuff. But the opposite of that would be, I have to do this business because my grandparents are sick and I need money to take care of them. I can't do this business because my car broke down, but I have to do this business because my car broke down. I can't do this business because I don't have the money, or I need to do this business because I don't have the money. It's your perspective. So one of my mentors gave me a perspective check this past weekend because it was just, it was a very, very eventful weekend, okay? But one of my mentors said, what's your perspective on it? Because it's how you look at it. So think about something recently that's happened in your life and how you responded to it. Because problems are problems because of the way that we see them. But in reality, problems are just new challenges that are giving you a new opportunity to figure out what your perspective is on to change. Life isn't what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. So how are we responding to things that happen? When you get another no, are you saying, you know what, now I have to do the, let me tell you, I don't think a lot of people know this. I said this a very long time ago. I still have screenshots of text messages where people told me that this wasn't going to work and that you can't make a lot of money in this industry and all of that stuff. All the mean things people said to me, I have screenshots. Why? Because I chose to flip my perspective and I chose to keep all of that as fuel. When I get in one of those moods where I'm just like, I don't know if this is for me, you know what I do? I go back and I read those text messages. I go back and I read Well, you would say, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that? Because it fuels me. That's just the way I'm wired. Like, I'm not going to give anybody else the satisfaction of seeing me fail, and neither should you. There's people out there waiting right now. They're holding their breath. They're like, God, please let this person quit, please. Because look, if they don't quit, I'm gonna know that I missed out on something, and I probably should have done it with them. But I wanted to see them do it first, and I want them to fail so that I can say I was right. There's people waiting right now for you to say, oh, are you still doing that thing? You still doing that thing? They're waiting for you to be like, nah, man, nah, not anymore. They're waiting. So why would you give them the pleasure of seeing you quit? Why would you let them have that satisfaction? Why not satisfy yourself and your family and say, no, I did it. I'm actually almost at the top of the company. What are you doing? Are you still at that job thing? It's your perspective. How are you going to look at things? Are you turning the negatives into positives, or are you letting the negatives get to you and get you down? I started flipping it in the beginning. It was hard. Okay. I'm pretty sure I've never gotten rejected that many times in my life, like ever, for anything. Okay. Anything. Girl Scouts were getting more people to buy stuff from them than I was. Okay. But the thing is that anytime somebody says no, you got to do two things. You have to evaluate what happened, because if it was something that you could have done, then you got to improve it. The second thing that you have to do is you store it as jet fuel, and then you use it later on to take off, because you're not going to give somebody the satisfaction of seeing you fail. So now, what do you think the boxer did? He could have let go. He could have said, you know what, my baby's deaf and I can't do this anymore because she needs me. But what he did was he flipped it and said, you know what, because my baby's deaf, she needs me to do this, because if I give up, so will she. So who is waiting out there to see you win so that they win? Who's waiting on you to not give up so that they don't give up? There's somebody right now looking up to you. There's somebody right now that you're their role model, you're their motivation. There's people that you don't even know. There's people that are probably never going to come up to you to say that you changed their life. There's people on this call right now, the things that they've gone through or they're going through, I admire them so much, and they don't even know it unless I tell them. There's somebody looking at you saying, I'm going to do it because they did it. They're the reason that I did it. They're the reason that I kept going. Eric Worre says you should wait for the shoulder tap moments in your life. You know what that means? Imagine yourself at an in-person convention right now, if you've ever been there, and imagine somebody coming up to you and just tapping you on the shoulder and saying, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am. I just wanted to let you know that you changed my life. Do you know how many of those moments Mr. Thomas has had? And we've all been one of them. Imagine how many people have gone up to him and shoulder tapped him and said, excuse me, sir, you changed my life. I just wanted you to know that. You changed my life. There's only 4 words, but how powerful are they? Is everything that you went through gonna be worth it when somebody comes up to you at your shoulder tap moment and says that to you? Because you might have just changed a whole generation, not just one person. So I'm going to end with this story. There's 2 brothers, and one went on to be super, super successful. He had the money, he had the cars, he had the house, he had everything going for him. And then the second brother was broke and he was an alcoholic. So, you know, somebody asked him one day, they asked the successful brother, they said, why are you so successful? How are you so successful? What was it that caused you to be this way? So you know what he said? He said, because my dad was unsuccessful, because my dad was broke, because my dad had no ambition, and because my dad was an alcoholic, I decided not to be that. Okay. Now, the second brother that was unsuccessful, he was broke, sleeping on people's couches, alcoholic, no ambition. They asked him the same question. They said, how are you where you are in your life right now? What caused you to be this way? He said, because my dad was broke, because he had no ambition, because he was an alcoholic. That's why I am the way I am. They both had the same exact upbringing. They both had the same exact reason, but their result was different. So I need you to know today that you hold the power to pivot your perspective. You hold the power to pivot your perspective. You could be going through the same thing as somebody else. One person being diagnosed with something can be their reason for giving up, and another person, it could be their reason to keep going. One person losing their house can be the reason that they give up and they just want to live in a box on the side of the road. Another person is going to say, you know what? I'm not going out like this. I'm going to figure this out. Use your vision as your blueprint. Use your problems as the plywood. Use the nose as the nails. Use the situations you go through as stair steps. Use the disappointment people put you through as decor. Let the opinions be the bricks that you lay the foundation with, brick by brick, and build yourself an empire. And with that, Mr. Thomas, I'm going to pass it back to you. Thank you so much for having me on today.